Hey guys, Bad Science here, and today I am back with the subreddit r/IDontWorkHereLady, and I've got count them, 5 stories lined up. Most because this subreddit doesn't really understand the definition of length. So let's get right into the first one. Lord of the Rings crystal figurines. I, a male sci-fi and fantasy nerd, was wandering around my local mall while waiting for my wife to finish shopping for clothes with my daughter. They take forever trying things on. I noticed a new store that was filled with ceramic dragons, incense burners, and lots of crystals. One display had a little cut crystal Lord of the Rings figurine. I was checking them out when a young boy came up and asked if I could get down the small dragon figure for him. I looked around and his mother was a few feet away and nodded that it was okay. They then went to the register at the back of the store to pay. I moved another dragon from the back of the shelf to fill in the gap. That's when a lurking Karen grabs my hand while saying, "Now that you're done helping that child, I need you to get me down a castle incense burner right now. I don't have all day." She was not your typical looking Karen. About 5'10" and whipcord thin. What? Whipcord thin? She was black and dressed in a semi-striped ensemble. Shirt, pants, and matching shoes. As I tried to pull my hand away, I told her I don't work here and let go of my hand. She had a very strong grip. She got a very mad expression on her face and started rambling about me not wanting to help her because she was like, there it is. I repeated that I don't work here, and she came back with, "I just saw you help that boy. Stop lying." Having had enough of this craziness, I jerked my hand forcefully away, and unfortunately, she came along for the ride. I did mention that she had a very strong grip. She tumbled over into the display of 5 shells full of crystal. This finally got her to release my hand as she tried to stop her fall. I panicked and moved swiftly to the entrance and off in the direction of my wife and child. I've never been good with confrontation. As we were leaving the mall 20 minutes later, I saw the Karen arguing with 2 police officers and the shopkeeper. I didn't see any blood on her hands as she waved them in the officer's face, so I guess she only hurt her pride. She was yelling that it was their other worker that shoved her into the display. The shopkeeper kept saying that there were no other workers there. I also heard her tell one officer that they hadn't got the security cameras running yet, as they had just opened. I helped my family pass before Karen noticed me. I know it wasn't my finest moment, but where did these Karens get off putting their hands on people? I've never been back to that store. Nah, she probably just... Nah, she was just straight up being like, "Help me now." But that's no reason to not go back to the store. It's like, in this situation, I'd just go back to the store and be like, "Hi, can you, if you see this lady, show her my picture and tell her I don't work here." I was almost arrested because of a Kevin. Not a Ken, not a Karen, but a Kevin, huh? This happened a few months ago. To set the scene, I, a 19-year-old male, was walking through the supermarket to grab some beers and snacks. I was dressed in a dark blue shirt, so I see why he mistook me for an employee. This middle-aged looking man, dressed like Jerry from Rick and Morty, yes, approached me and demanded I go get him his groceries and shoved his grocery list at me. I tried to say, "I don't work here," but before I could say the word "work," he said, "Go do it. All you lazy employees say the same things." I hand him his grocery list back and go to walk away, when he aggressively grabs my shoulder and spins me around. To combat this, while still spinning, I get a punch up, arm square to his nose. Nice. The part wasn't super hard, but he exaggerated it by going backwards into the shelf, knocking everything over. He screams, "Assault!" and quickly dials 911. Skip to when cops arrive. He starts immediately saying how he politely asked for some help. I suddenly got hostile and punched him. Cops look at the camera footage, which unfortunately had no sound. At the angle we were at, it appeared as though he only tapped me on the shoulder. One of the officers went to put me in handcuffs, as it appeared I hit him very hard. Luckily, he had squeezed my shoulder hard enough that left a pretty good mark. I showed this mark, but the officers looked skeptical. I asked them to look closer at where his finger entered frame, and you could see that he grabbed and spun me around. You could see color drain from his face as he realized he was rude. The cops didn't arrest him, unfortunately, but they did chew him out pretty good. After that very long encounter, I finally went home and enjoyed some beers with my buds. I just hope the beers were dropped. I'm glad the beers were not dropped in the situation. Like, holding the beer in snakes in one hand, palm with the other. But that supermarket needs to get their sound checked if they have camera but no sound. Because, like, in that situation, people can get away with anything. "What is this stuff?" he hissed menacingly. I was at my local discount store just buying some discounts and other fun things when I encountered someone who was absolutely transfixed on a bag of something he'd apparently never seen before. He looked at me and with the strangest combination of confusion and delight, he hissed, "What is this stuff?" He was holding a bag of birdseed. "Birdseed," I calmly told him. He looked confused. "Food for birds." "It's food?" he asked, looking excitedly, strangely excited about this information. "For birds, yes. I suppose you could eat it, but I'm not sure where you'd get it, what you'd get from it." I paused, read the label to him, and before I could get through the list, he interrupts me. "I'm gonna eat it," he announced, grabbing several bags off the shelf and hurrying off excitedly. "I hope he enjoys his sweet dinner." What? It's not a medium-length story, but I'm just gonna say, excuse me, what? What are you doing, man? That's nothing. I don't think this is an "I don't work here, lady" story. This is just a guy being weird for the sake of being weird. I love how he grabs several bags as well. It's like, get enough for at least one meal, apparently. And if it works in a shop. I went to the range recently with my mum, sister, and 1-year-old nephew. They wanted some of that tablecloth that they cut to size. There was no one at the cutting desk, so my mum went to the front desk while sister and nephew hovered by the cutting desk, and I got what I wanted. I went back to my sister and nephew and saw this man there the corner of my eye, and he muttered something under his breath. We paid no attention to him, thinking he's just talking to himself. I picked up my nephew and gave him a cuddle. We then hear the man shout, "I guess I'll have to go and get the manager over to get someone to help me then." We glance over and see he's unloaded all of his shopping out on the cutting desk and is talking to us. Confused, we tell him likely yes. They seem rather understaffed today. He stood there confused and said, "Well, you're useless. I'll go and get him myself." We pointed out the tills and said they're over there. We don't work here. Mum returned with someone who worked there to cut the tablecloth. While they're cutting, a manager comes over and whispers something to the person helping us, and she responded with a confused look on her face, and we just heard her say she hadn't spoken to anyone besides us. We asked if it was about the crazy guy. They confirmed it was, so we told them what had happened. Nothing more was said about it. We paid for our stuff, got overcharged as usual, because that's what the range does. At least you're aware that the range overcharges. But, again, I'm not, like, how did the crazy guy think an infant worked at a shop? Or a toddler? Like, was he more in the range of, like, why are these kids here by themselves? Or something? Like, I don't get it. That's confusing. Okay, do I work here or not? Please just tell me. This one is kind of different. I was working at Blockbuster as an assistant manager while I was going to school. I would go to classes during the day and work the closing shift. I'm not sure if it was a company or district policy, but they wanted the manager and the assistant managers to work a variety of shifts, with each one working at least one opening and one closing shift per week. I had no problem with that, but let the manager know that because of my class schedule, I would only be able to open on the weekend. He was fine with that because no one really wants to open on the weekend anyway. I had been there for about 6 months when we had a manager change. I explained to the new manager about my school schedule and the arrangement with the previous manager. The new manager didn't like that arrangement and wanted his assistant managers to have more flexibility. I told her I understood, but I wasn't going to give up school for this job and gave my 2-week notice. I rarely saw the new manager because she opened on the days that I closed. I worked my normal schedule for the next 2 weeks. A few days before my last day, I looked at the next week's schedule and I was scheduled for my normal schedule. I enjoyed the job. I got paid a little over minimum wage to talk to people about movies, and it fit my school schedule. The other reason I was leaving was because the new manager wanted me to be more flexible. I thought that maybe the new manager had changed her mind and was willing to be more flexible. Since I had given my notice, I could have left my uniform on the manager's desk and dropped my key in the return box after locking up the store. But since I enjoyed the job and the schedule I was scheduled fit my schedule, I decided to continue working. The next week, I was still on the schedule. I kept working and I kept getting paid. This happened for about 6 weeks. Then I went in to open the store on a Sunday after being off the previous day. I opened the door and went to turn off the alarm. The alarm said I entered the incorrect code, so I entered it again, same result. After the third attempt, the alarm started going off and the police were automatically dispatched. I went out front to get away from the wailing sirens and to wait for the police to arrive. When the police arrived, I explained the situation and showed them my lanyard and showed them that I had the key to the store. I told the officer, "I do work here, lady." The officer wanted to talk to the manager, but since I had only met her the one time, I didn't have her number with me. But I explained to the officer where the schedule book was and that it had everyone's number in it. She went in and got the book and called the store manager. I could tell the officer was looking concerned as she was talking to the manager. After she got off the phone, she asked me if I wanted to change my story. I said no, that I was just there on my normal shift to open the store. The officer told me that the manager was on her way down, but informed the officer I used to work there, but quit about 6 weeks ago. I nervously laughed and explained the ordeal to the officer. I could tell she didn't believe me until I suggested she look at the schedule. She even commented that I was scheduled for 4 days the upcoming week. The manager finally arrived and talked to the officer. While they were talking, I took off my polo shirt and handed it to the manager, along with my lanyard and the keys to the store. The manager then looked flabbergasted and asked me who was going to close the store next week. The officer and I looked even more flabbergasted, looked at each other and replied, "Not me. I don't work here, lady." I just love how you put in your 2-week notice and yet you still had scheduled jobs. Like, you had scheduled days. Like, at that point, don't do anything else. Just go and just free money for 6 weeks or even longer, or like at least call, like you call them on the day that you quit, or like the day after you quit, and be like, "Hi, yes, I put in my 2 week notice a while, like 2 weeks ago. Why why am I still on the schedule?" Anyway, on that confusing note, I'm gonna end this episode here. Links will be in the description to the main channel and the second channel for you guys to go check out. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know next video comes out. A ding, on the Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist out.